Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Writing Visual Studio Extensions with Mads. That's me, and today I'm all alone. I don't have James is not here, John is not here. It's just me, and this is, of course, very unfortunate because there's some super cool guys that I like to hang out with, and I think that you maybe like to hang out with them too, but not today, my friends, not today. So let's see here. Today's going to be a little bit of a shorter episode, I think, probably like around an hour, a little less than that. And I would like a lot of your input to today's subject because it's kind of, is it controversial? I think maybe it is controversial. At least there's a lot of opinions about the DTE and whether we should use it or not. I have my opinions. I'm sure you have yours. And for those of you who don't know what the DTE is, it's kind of a a collection of objects and methods that make Visual Studio extensibility authoring a little bit simpler instead of having to deal with all these old COM interrupt services and whatnot. But it also has a bunch of issues, and we're going to talk about some of those as well. So, and then look at maybe replacing the DT with an alternative. And so I prepared a little bit, so I have something to show you. But let's talk about the DTE. So I've always been like a kind of a big fan of the DTE. It just makes things easier. It's an easy to understand object model, like it's intuitive. And so I use it, and even for cases where I actually know how to not use the DT, but use it, do different called other APIs for the same thing. Often I choose to go with the DT anyway because it's usually faster and simpler. So anyway, I'm a fan, and I have been always. But there's some downsides. The DT is not maintained. No new features are being added. That means that when new services come into Visual Studio, new capabilities, then the DT will not have any of that. Like, it just doesn't know about those things. And unfortunately, that also includes when there are new best practices, new ways of doing the same things. And so the DT is not updated to take advantage of those best practices as they evolve over time. It's kind of stuck in like 2010, like literally. So that's kind of an issue, right? It's unmaintained and it's not sort of under the hood. It's not using the latest and greatest. And so, there is that. Then there's a whole, nothing is async, right? When you use the DT, you're basically, you kind of have to be on the UI thread. Nothing is async. So it's kind of showing its age a little bit, I feel like. And when we're talking about, like, especially within the context of the toolkit, where everything, or a lot of things, most things are async, it's kind of annoying that we can't use async APIs on the DT as well, so we can get async all the way through, right? So anyway, so that's problematic. And then, and for these reasons, the Visual Studio team has been recommending extenders not to use the DTE. Like, get off the DTE. Use the IVS star services instead. And I've kind of ignored that because it's too hard. But with the toolkit coming in and making things easier, maybe, just maybe, we can replace the DTE. And I do say maybe because I think the challenge is that if we were to take on the task of writing sort of a wrapper around the COM interfaces in the same style as what the DT does, we have to be better, right? We can't just, I don't want to replace it for the sake of replacing it, because who's really going to win there? Like, it has to be better. So not only does it have to be better because it implements the more best practices under the hood, but it should also give us maybe capabilities that the DTE didn't, right? And so it has to be better on like multiple fronts for it to be worthwhile doing this, I think. I would love to hear what you think about this. Yeah, Mark here, he says, used the DTE for years, but what do the letters stand for? Is Jan here? I think Jan was the one that had it like design time, DT, design time extensibility or something. Maybe. I think Jan knew what it was or could guess what it was or something. Okay. So in order for us to tackle this thing, I think it's relevant to know like what are the most common use cases of the DTE. And for me, it's being able to get the current selected items in Solution Explorer, right? Or the active project, something like that. And then the object you get back is a project or is a project item. And then there's a bunch of properties like what's the file name, what's you can perform some operations on these things. But usually it's for it's just for small things like that. Yet they're very, very hard to do without the DT. But the DT kind of sucks when it comes to that. So let me show you something I've been playing around. Maybe I should show you what it would look like in the DTE. No, I'm just gonna show you this. This is an alternative that I've been playing around with. There we go. So check this out. Let's say I want to select the current, like I want to get the currently selected items. Check this out. I have this concept here now called the Solution Explorer node. That's a concept I made up, okay? Solution Explorer node. And I get an enumerable of those by simply calling vs.solution.getSelectedNodes async, okay? And so it doesn't matter if it's a project item, if it's let's say a solution folder, a project, a file, or a folder. They're all Solution Explorer nodes, and I get them back like this. So let's actually execute this. Let's see, I have a running instance. So I'm just gonna do a couple of selections. I'm gonna do a solution folder, I'm gonna do a project, I'm gonna do a folder, and I'm gonna do a file. So 4 things selected. I'm gonna say click me. And we hit our breakpoint. And you can see we now have 4 things. And it tells you, it's a solution folder, a project, a physical folder, and a physical file. Okay, so we can actually see that there are some different kinds here. So let's do the first one, solution. No, let's not do the solution folder. Let's do like the file one, physical file. So if we look, we have like the file name. We know if it's expandable. The name of the file. We can go parent and children. So we have parent and children as well. They're all lazy loaded. So if I go parent right here, it's actually not created till I request that property. So, and I think with the DT, I think it constructs the entire thing in the beginning. So, so we get some optimizations here. But anyway, I can see there's a folder. The type of that is type project. Is that right? So that's kind of cool, right? I get all these different things. I do have there's some methods on there too. So I can still go in and do something like node dot, and say to project. And that gives me the DTE project type. Or we can say to project item. If it's a file, right, or a folder, then I say to project item instead. And that gives me the DTE version of the project or a project item. And so we can kind of marry the two, but we say for the vast majority of cases, for this use case at least, where you want selected things, then I think we probably don't really need the DT. We probably just need like the file name so that we can figure out what type of file we're dealing with and should we kick in our logic or not. Okay, so let's just run that. So that's kind of simple. And I can also say, get me the active project node. All right, that gives me a Solution Explorer node that matches the active project. So, so this is basically the API now. So that's my proposal. I'm just going to stop running here. if we were to use the DTE, it would be something like, we would do something like this. DTE equals await vs.get DTE async like this. Get the DTE. We can then say DTE dot, and then say selected items like this, right? So this, I'm just showing you here, selected items. Okay, count an item. Is it multi-select or not? So I get a few options here. What is the individual item? Selected items and info count, project item name. I don't even know what info and info count are. This is kind of a weird API. So instead of just saying, hey, so I could do that and then I could iterate through the list, but instead just say get me all the selected nodes, right? And whether they're projects or not, because now I have to go in here, okay, project, and then say, okay, are you a project? So we have to go in here, project, if project is not null, something like this. That means that it's a project, and so I can do my project thing. So this is kind of a weird API. It's not really intuitive. But the alternative is we would do it down here. We would just say if node type is type project, right? Then we could go ahead and do our thing. So this is like, I feel this is way more intuitive. It's prettier to look at. Like this her thing up here with like these weird indexers, and I don't know. It's just, and see here, it's like complaining, oh, you have to be on the main thread to do this, right? So that was another thing, is that we're like forced to be on the UI thread. So we have to go up here and switch to the main thread first, all this sort of stuff. I'm not even doing anything. I'm just testing whether or not I'm not interacting with the project. I'm just testing if a property is null or not, right? And so it's like, come on. It should be more elegant than that, I feel like. Anyway, that was this particular scenario where I think this notion of like having this solution explorer node come in, and the idea is that it's kind of a replacement for project item and project. I don't like the name. I don't think it should be called solution explorer node. Maybe it should be called item node, or just item, or I don't know. What do you think it should be called? Because it can also, it doesn't have to be selected in Solution Explorer. It could also be the active document you're on. So in that case, calling it something with node, I don't know if that makes too much sense. But yeah, it's an item of sort, I'd say, and that item can be of type project or file or folder or whatever. Okay, so active item, Solution Explorer item. Those are some good ones. Yeah, Solution Explorer item. We had another one. Was it active item, or just solution item? Stephen might. Yeah. So active item. Well, it doesn't have to be active. It can be selected, right? But there's nothing about these items that are. I don't know if we need to put a verb on them because they're not. The context of how they're showing up, like they don't have to be active for them to exist. Yeah, we can just do some item. Solution Explorer item, except again, like it could be a file open, and so it's not necessarily a Solution Explorer thing. But I do believe that they have to be part of a solution. So a MISC file will not trigger any of this. So a solution item could be a thing, right? And that, but it could also be a solution itself. That's the thing. Environment Explorer item. Come on, we can do longer than that, right? It doesn't have to be that short. Yeah, it does make sense that it is a tree view, so therefore node makes sense. That's right, except that if it's the active document that's open that it represents, then there is no tree view, right? But since it has to be in the solution, it by definition also is represented by a node in the tree. It could also just be item node. Should it be item node? Is that lame? Project. Yeah, I thought about project item, but it could be a project or a solution. So project item, I think, does not go. Here we go. Solution Explorer or environment tree item node. That's perfect. Yeah, node item node. Which is best, node item or item node? Item node. Okay. Or solution item. Okay, so we got a item node is okay. We got some votes on IDE node explore. Active item node. Okay, there's a lot of bits here. Yeah, thing is good too. There we go. So, okay, let's think about that, and maybe we will revisit that before the show's over. So for those of you who try to upgrade your extensions to 2022, you might have run into issues with the DTE events. So the DTE.events, .document events, or .solution events, or .build events, which is gives you a list of events you can subscribe to. And you've hit an issue where it just doesn't work in 2022 when you're using an older version of the DTE. And it turns out that there are some issues that it could be a bug in 2022. And it has to do with how their constructor for the DT itself, that it doesn't load the constructor has changed. Like it's an internal implementation detail. And so they're looking at maybe there's a bug that they fix it. So maybe this will work. And so that's good news. But it might not. And I've taken the liberty of as basically replacing some of those things in the toolkit. So let me show you. Let's see here. I'm just gonna hang on. No, that's not what I want to do. There we go. Because yeah, so I can minimize the screen. Let me show you what I've done. So in the events class here, this is such that you can go and say, let's look at how we're doing that in the toolkit. If you want to subscribe to events, you go vs.events. And then you can say build events and document events. And what I've done is that I've replaced a bunch of them because they were using the DT one. Check this out. So here's some code model events, right? So this is using the DTE code model, or the DTE events, right, for code model. And a few of them, for instance, the debugger events, check this out. Instead of it being the same as the DTE events, it is now a new class. I'm newing up a class here. So I've implemented a class called debugger events. And check this out. It's actually doing what probably the DT does under the hood, which is subscribing to the IVS events under the hood. So you advise it down here. You get the service, and we can now enter break mode. We can see all these things that show up. And so I've noticed that in some of these cases, we actually get more detailed, more granular events than we did before. So because maybe they've been added later on, and as I said, the DT has not been kept up to date, and so new events might have been added, but the DT doesn't know, and that's kind of nice. So I've done debugger events, document events, shell events, which is kind of new. I'm trying to replace the DT events. The DT events contain stuff like on shutdown, so you can listen to when Visual Studio shuts down and stuff. I haven't found the where I can where those events are. I can only find them in the DT. So anyway, I'm going through selection events, solution events. See, there's still a while where to go, and I think I'm going to also remove some of them because they're not so relevant. But I'll show you a couple of things that I've done. So shell events, what do we have here? This is shell available, environment color change. That's kind of a nice one, right? So solution events, this is kind of weird. Check this out. I'm basically aliasing another event handler. So E is, I don't know if you know this class. There's a class full of statically defined events on solution events. That's right here. And so instead of, But if you don't know this class, you don't know it. So by having it as part of this, I'm just basically, if you can see here, E, I'm calling it E, just for keep it short here. E dot, and see, I'm basically just redirecting those event handler things to that class, to that shell class. So we all get them at the same place, but they exist. I don't have to rewrite them, but so they're kind of aliased that way. So we can keep it all at the same, like looking the same, like when you're using the toolkit. So I'm pretty excited for that. The selection event, like whenever there's a selection that changed, I've actually done it such that it now returns Solution Explorer nodes. So if the selection changes, you get like 2 Solution Explorer nodes, like from what to what, right? From what node to what node. And so you can see how the new item node or node item or whatever it was, or Nerd Herder's idea of the current item for some tree view in solution item. That's a good one. So we can use those throughout and be more consistent about it. And so that means that the toolkit itself will not, I think, should not rely on anything in the DTE. But I also don't think that it should like prohibit anyone from using the DTE. And so we can have those helper methods that say, hey, take this and convert it to a DTE project or DTE project item or whatever. I think that still makes sense. But internally, if we can get rid of its use in the toolkit, that means that we're fully in control of the best practices that we want to adhere to, right? So so that's the idea. And so we're kind of getting rid of the DTE. So when the name of the show was, should we replace the DTE? It's like, yeah, I think the answer is yes. I don't think that you as extender should do it, but I think from the toolkit we should do it. And then you can then decide in your implementation if you need that, like the stuff that the DTE provides, or if the toolkit has replacements for it, that works fine, because then it's probably even better. All right. Cool. So let's just make a decision here. Let's call it item node. Where did it go? Solution Explorer node. We'll call it item node. See if I get the rename throughout the file as well. No. Okay. Oh, I want to try this. So what is the shortcut? There's a shortcut for. It's like rename. There's like an inline rename. What is that? Control RR. Yeah, Control RR. Okay, so how do I do that? Control RR. And item. No. Oh, look at that. 3 unresolved conflicts. Rename will update. What does that mean? 3 unresolved conflicts. Apply. What are the conflicts? Can I build? Yeah. Okay. So I don't understand what was unresolved then. Anyway. Maybe I should have, that's when I click the apply button. That takes care of those unresolved things. That could be. Okay, item node. Oh yeah, you see these things up here? Let's see here. You've probably seen these. So there's a bug for Andrew to fix this on the up here, these info bars up here, and they stack like 3 of them. Say that some of the analyzers don't work for the VSSDK analyzers. So there's a bug. So that's probably gonna be fixed. And oh, I'm trying to figure out how to zoom probably. There we go. So hopefully he'll be able to fix that at some point. And but another thing is that the Roslyn team is actually doing it such that they will not pop the yellow bar anymore for stuff like this, except for in the preview builds. So that's kind of nice. well, we should see a reduction of these yellow bars across the board in Visual Studio 2022. So that makes me kind of excited because they're rather annoying sometimes. Let me know what you think. I'm the program manager for notifications now. That includes the info bar. So I'm kind of curious about this. What do you think about this? All right. Let's see here. I want to check some stuff in. So first of all, I need to undo the stuff I've been doing here to play around with things. What do I have in here? Oh, yeah, here's my selection. Oh yeah, I can show you. Where is that? All right, so VS Events, selection events. I'm just subscribing to it, and see here I get a from and I get a to, and they're now item nodes, right? It used to be Solution Explorer nodes. Now they're item nodes. This is just very clean and nice, and yeah, makes me happy. So let's nuke this. Boop. There we go. And okay, so renamed Solution Explorer node to item node. And so you can start playing around with this if you want to. I'm sure there's still some bugs or a lot of things that it could be improved. It's not done. This is kind of the first, the proof of concept, I'd say. But let's see if we can actually prove the concept. And so I'm probably going to play around with it in some of my extensions. Yeah, those notifications can be very annoying. Yeah. Well, what is this, Jay? What does this mean? Yes. So what does the debugger display mean on top of the item node? Yeah, that means that when we are debugging and you mouse over an instance of an item node, instead of just saying it's a community.visualstudio.toolkit.item node, it says the name, and then in parentheses it says the type. I don't know if you noticed that as I went through and debugged it. You could see that. So that just makes debugging a hell of a lot easier because we can see the name of, in this case, the name property is the thing that I want to show, and the type attribute. So it's something you can do in your own. Debugger display is under system diagnostics. So it's not something I invented. It's like fully supported by Visual Studio and .NET. And here's one. Instead of the yellow notification bar, would the errors then appear in the output window pane instead? Yes, exactly. And they would be logged automatically through telemetry and stuff like that. So the team is able to get the information they need to fix things. Okay, so that was kind of it for today. I know it's a kind of a thin thing here. There's not that much meat on the subject here today, but I am really. But I would love to continue like having a conversation. If you want to give me your opinion about the DTE, I haven't really seen much in the comments so far on whether or not you think it's a good idea or not. Jan said it was a great idea, I think, but I also know Jan really is a big fan of the DTE, the same as I am. I'm just looking through the commentary. I can't see much. Yeah, so please let me know. It doesn't make sense to get rid of it. The DTE for the toolkit. Keep it clean and modern, if you will. Here's one for Jose. What about VS 2022? What about it? What do you mean? What's the context of that question? Here's another one. Oh, that's a different. So what is my favorite extension that I wrote and a favorite from another author? Okay. A favorite that I wrote is probably add new file. Add new file is one that I can't live without. And a favorite from different author. It could be the VS color output. Actually, what's it called? It could also be Jan's extensibility logs, just because I kind of use it a lot. But what's it called? There's one. It just came out for 2020 with 2022 support. Output. Yeah, so VS color output 64 here. Yeah. But I use a different one. Where is it? I thought I did. Oh, that's that's not in the 2022. That's in my 2019 instance. Yeah. Okay. Oh, what about migrating extensions from 2019 to 2022? Go to the playlist and grab last week's episode. We go through it there. So that's that. We covered that. I'd like to cover more. So if there's any specific questions that we didn't get to, let me know. Here's one from Jan. Are we working on making async tool window work in 2022? You mean such that you can have tool windows that work in the same extension that targets both 2019 and 2022? I'm not aware of that. I need to talk to the team to see. Hopefully, it's not a mistake that you can't do that, but or hopefully it is a mistake, because then that means they're going to fix it. But it could just be that the interrupt types are not compatible, and so if you have tool windows, you have to split your extension. Like that's what I've been doing. Oh, Jan, good news. We'll get the extensibility logs very soon. So if you want to, once you get it out, put it in the extensibility essentials extension as well. It's just a little JSON thing to add. So send a PR for that, or just let me know and I can do it. Okay, what's here. For a beginner, the DTE feels really intimidating. If it could be replaced by something other, more descriptive classes, that would be great. Okay. That's great feedback. That's very, very great feedback. Yeah. There's just some weird idiosyncrasies in the DTE, like that still require tribal knowledge, and yeah. Okay. Will Windows 11 be good for developers? Of course, it'll be fantastic. Absolutely fantastic for developers. No question about it. I haven't tried Windows 11 at all. I'll be very surprised if you're going to have a worse experience in Windows 11 as a developer. Yeah, so the DT might be intimidating, but the COM interfaces are even more so. Yeah, 100% agree. But that doesn't mean that even though that the DT is better, doesn't mean that it's great, right? Is there a cheat sheet for VS extension classes, like a class diagram within all? No. But if you go to v6cookbook.com, that's v6cookbook.com. So that's where we're trying to make it super easy to get started, get the tools, how to write your first extension. There's even a video. Can you believe it? Lots of screenshots, lots of explanations. And then there are recipes, like how do I do tool windows? How do I deal with theming, light theme, dark theme, that sort of stuff? How do I handle settings and options? What about notifications? How do I do that? Or showing progress? So the idea is that V6 Cookbook is a place to go for especially beginners, but I'd say for everybody that just either need inspiration. You may not know that, hey, there's a way that you might not know that there's something called a threaded wait dialog and how to take advantage of that, for instance. Or you didn't know that you could actually get into the task status center down here with your own background tasks running. So even though you've done this for a long time, you might not be aware of all the different extensibility APIs that are available and how to use them right and all that. And this entire cookbook is geared around the toolkit, which makes everything so much simpler, right? So so that means that the concepts are going to be much, much simpler. So I hope you're going to enjoy that. Is there a must install extension that I did not write that I always install? No, there's not. Sorry. Let's see here. Let's see. I mean, technically, Jamie wrote most of this one, but it's my repo, so I guess it's mine. But let's see. I mean, there's the built-in ones like Snapshot Debugger, Intellicode. They don't count. Library Manager. Yeah, no. So at least in my 2022, I don't have any. I don't have any others. No, I don't use ReSharper. Is the question here? I don't need to. I don't. Visual Studio gives me everything I need. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so now we're gonna go through. Oh, there is one. So Paul Harrington is updating it, and it's part of the. Okay, here output enhancer. That was the one that colorizes my output window. So it's like the VS Color output. So I think they're kind of similar. Here, Setting Store Explorer is one that I really, really like. And it's not out for 2022 yet, but Paul is working on it as far as I can tell. So it'll be out soon, and it will be in the Extensibility Essentials 2022 extension pack as well. Yeah, I really like this tweaks too. I mean, I wrote that, but that's another one that I really like because it just has so many fixes for like common things that annoy me, like small little paper cuts around Visual Studio, right? So I really enjoy that one. So here's one, for instance, that it gives, like on the output window, it allows you to set like if you want detailed output or minimal or whatever, instead of having to go into tools options and then find where this is. It's just, why not just put it right here into the toolbar of the output window itself. So stuff like that. Mark asks here, are you open to suggestions for future episodes? Absolutely. I would love some. Absolutely love some. I actually got quite a bit, but most, if not all of the ones, and we've actually done some episodes based on those already. But the ones that are left in that bucket are all like super specific to something that either I don't know or it's like doesn't have a broad appeal at all. So I'm kind of, I could use some new ideas, and you could do it right here. You could do it on Twitter. Hit me up on Twitter, or right here in the comments. It's fine if you have one right now. Yep. You're welcome, Scott. Let's see what else we got. Shouldn't the toolkit handle tool windows so we don't have to split extensions? Yes, in the perfect world, that is exactly what we should do. The question is whether we can do it or not. Like if there's an underlying incompatibility between interrupt types, this is the crux of the issue. The interrupt types are incompatible between not all of them, but some of them are, between 2022 and 2019. And so no toolkit can fix that up. There might be situations where we at runtime can do some smarts, or we can use other APIs that don't touch those interrupt types if other APIs are available. And so this is about figuring out, like, is there something that the toolkit can do under the hood to make tool windows work across 2019, 2022? And I don't know yet. So what about creating a new extension that uses ml.net? I've never done any of that, ml.net. But I wonder if But what would it do? Well, I mean, you can use ML.NET in any .NET language, including extensions, and so I don't. So there's nothing specific extension specific about ML.NET, right? It's just we do it in a context of ML.NET. So what would we build that required the use of ML.NET? That is the question. We're using the light theme. Is that a directive from headquarters? I find it hard to believe that it is preferred mode for everyone that happens to be streaming. No, it's not directed. People use all sorts of. Most people use dark theme that I've noticed, and when back in the day when I would walk around the offices, right? Pretty much everyone used, all the engineers and whatever, they all use the dark theme actually, but we use the light theme, or the blue theme is what this is, for live streaming and stuff. And if we would go to a conference, we would do light theme because it has a higher contrast, so it's easier to see. And so there's accessibility reasons to why we do this when we present. So that's all it is. I just do this so much that I kind of never shifted away from blue theme. So that's I always have it a blue theme even when I'm not presenting. Just yeah, maybe light mode is like for it's for when the people get older and their eyes start to give them some trouble. What else? Was there some other? Let's see here. I'm going through the comments. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's nice to code in dark theme, but it makes it hard to see it in videos. That's exactly the reason. There are no rules. There are no rules. Like depending on your audience, do it in the dark theme. Like if they, like a lot of people when they say see light theme, they're like, oh, get it away from me. I don't understand. It's so weird, and it might have a really negative effect, right? Or reaction. And then if that's sort of consensus among everyone that's watching your video, whatever, yeah, you just stick with the dark theme. That's fine. But okay. Yes, the Intellicode extension is AI and machine learning. That's right. That's exactly what Intellicode, how it's built. So, but there, it's not extendable. It's not like we can, as an extender, hook into the AI engine of Intellicode. Would we want to do that? That's actually interesting. What if we could do that? What would we want to do? What type of artificial intelligence or intelligence do we need that we don't have today? That would be super fascinating if we could come up with something. I do not work on the Intellicode extension at all, whatsoever. It is on my team though, like a sister team to mine. So it's in the Visual Studio team, and yeah, they're doing some amazing stuff with the whole line completion, and they got even more stuff in the works that you're going to be pretty excited about once you see it. And that's all I have to say about that, but that's pretty cool. Okay. So I think that's it for today. Let's see, there's one more comment. Oh, interesting. Talk assisted to create a new file. So there is actually already a voice extension, and I did update it for 2022. So it's literally called, what's it called? It's called what is it called? Voice? Oops, if I can spell it. Oh, here we go. Voice commands. So you can say, you hold down a keyboard shortcut. I think it's Alt Space or so, maybe not, whatever. Alt V, I think it is. Alt V, and then you just use your voice. You say like the name of a command. You say format document. Then it formats the document. You say create new file, and then it will pop up like, and you can select which file type. So that doesn't require AI to do that. But it would be cool if you could, talk. Anyway. Is there a way to create a list of all extensions that you use and send it to us? There is in fact, because I updated, but I didn't install. So I updated the extension manager extension. So let's just grab that one. Let's grab that one. So the extension manager extension is an extension for dealing with extensions, and it allows you to make an export of your extensions and do an import of extensions, and then we'll install them. So it's kind of cool. It's something that I built because I wanted to be built in eventually, and hopefully it will be at some point. Like the features of it. It exports a JSON file, like it takes a JSON representation, and that's the same format as if you were to create an extension pack. You can use that very same file that you exported from using this tool. You can also take that file and put it next to your solution file and check it into your repo on GitHub or whatnot. And then when someone opens that solution, they will be prompted to install the extensions that you have listed in that file. They need the extension manager extension first, though, for that to happen. Alt V will give you the view menu. That's right, except you can still override it. And I might have done that, which is totally bad practice. So if I did, maybe Control Alt V, but I wouldn't put it past me to do something like that. Oh, hang on, here's something. Is the My Company compatible with 2022? Because if not, I do think I'm skilled enough to update it on my own. Yes, I do believe it is. That's a real. I was thinking about that the other day. What was it that I want to do? Okay. Yeah. So we did the My. So basically, what it is, it puts an icon on the toolbar or a command on the toolbar that can fold down, where you have all sorts of different, and it's just commands, and that fires links. And yes, it definitely is. I think actually what would be really nice is if I take the My Company app and convert it to use the toolkit, and then made it work in 2022. It should work everywhere. Yes. Speaking of extension inception, check this out. So now I installed that extension, right? So now I can go in here and say import, export extensions. So let's export. And so that gives me a list. So here's everything. Let's say I just want these three. I can say export, and we put that I already have one. That's fine. Let's override that. And then it opens it up. So the JSON editor has to load for the first time here. That's it. And you see here it adheres to the schema that the Visual Studio extensibility, the official extension pack stuff that's supported by Visual Studio uses the same schema. So yeah, so I can take this. So if I go up here and I can say import extensions, I can point to a file. And I can't actually click any of these, right? Because I already have them installed. So what I could do is I think if I just change an ID here, then it will show up. Let's try again. Yeah, so add new file. Now it doesn't recognize this one, right? And so I can import. And then I can override, which is kind of cool. So even though an extension I have might be a per user extension, I can force it to be like per machine, which is kind of cool. So I can override that default behavior. So that's neat. And if I take this file and I'm going to put that, let's see if I can figure out that's what's it called. It was called extensions. So let's go and open V6 project 10. I think it has to have the same name like that. And now I think that if I go here and I open that project, the V6 project 10, let's see here. Then hopefully I'll be prompted. Let's see. Yeah, so I'm prompted here. So hey, do you want to install these? So that's kind of clever, huh? So that means your extensions can roam with your project, but this will never work, right? Because the extension manager is an extension, and so it only works if people in your organization or whoever clones your repo or whatever, if they have this extension installed, and they don't. And this is not the type of extension that it doesn't have mass appeal. It's like, so the concept of having extensions flowing with your repos and your solutions and whatnot, like, it has to be built in. I think there are some limitations into what extensions can conceptually be successful at. And so this is one where, like, the concept, it has to be built in for the concept to work. Another one I did some years ago was suggested extensions. So it would basically, I think it would give you a yellow bar when you open a file. Let's say you open a markdown file, but there's nothing, but you don't have an extension that handles that file. It will suggest to you that you go install this extension, and it would just handle all that right there. You don't have to do anything. You just have to restart afterwards. You didn't even have to go in and close down Visual Studio. The V6 installer pops up. The same is true for this one, I think. But that concept doesn't work either, right? It has to be built in. You can't. People will go install an extension for a feature they need. They're not going to go install an extension for a feature they might need in the future, right? I was like, hey, do this now so you don't have to think about it. That's not appealing to a lot of people. So there's just some concepts that, even though we can execute them perfectly and make them brilliant and beautiful and fast, and they're not going to get mass installs, like, because the concept is not really for it. So is the list of extensions that you use available in your blog or Git repo? Oh yeah, I was gonna export this, right? And then put somewhere. Select all. Yeah. And we just put that, I just put it on my desktop. Okay, so I can put this in should I put that in a gist? Good. Okay, so we do here my VS 2022 extensions. This is a list of the extensions that I have installed in VS 2022. We're going to add a file and call it extensions.vsext, and I'm just going to copy this in. Yes. Is that right? Okay. So, I need to edit this. Just be README. Edit. Here's a funny thing. If you mark this readme.md, then I think that's going to go up and be at the top. Oh, update secret. It shouldn't be secret. Why is it secret? Where's the make not secret button? Edit. Make public. There we go. Okay. I'm gonna post this to the chat, and it should go to Twitch and YouTube and Learn TV. There you go. Oh, what about the? So, sorry, I meant the 2019 extension. Okay, I might do this later. I don't have the that export extension installed in 2019, so I don't want to do that right now. Yeah, this is kind of funny. I heard you like extensions, so I created an extension to extend Visual Studio to install extended extensions. Oh, that should be the slogan or something of the extensibility team. It can be annoying if it prompts you every time you open the solution. I think it only shows up once, and then it doesn't do it again. Because I would very quickly get annoyed myself. The thing is, I don't really use that extension because I always have all these extensions installed anyway that I myself use. So it's kind of silly, but yeah. Cool. All right. That's it. That's it, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let's see. I think we got through all the questions. So yeah, this was a little bit of a different episode this time. A lot of talking, not so much coding. Sorry about that. If you have anything you wanted to discuss in the future, like let's hear some ideas for some topics. And again, I haven't mentioned this in a while, but this is always something we can do. If you have an extension that you would like me to code review live here, then send me the GitHub link, and I can totally do that. I can send a PR, for instance, afterwards as part of the show. Go through and see if there's any optimizations we can do. So that's an idea for a topic. Like if you have an extension you need code reviewed. Any other topic is fine too. So let me get your ideas. And then finally, if you want to think more about or participate more in the discussion on this whole DTE replacement thing, the item nodes, I'm not still sure about that name. It seems it doesn't seem as powerful as like project item, and I don't know. Item node seems like vague. It's like, oh, is that a toolkit thing? Is that a SAML thing? What is it? Anyway, jump over to the V6 community, github.com/V6 community, and you can find the repos there, the toolkit repo, and the discussions are available. It doesn't have to be an issue. You can raise an issue. You can also just get in there with the discussions and get going. Oh, Jan, I would love to. Let's do it. Yeah, Jose, help someone migrate extensions. Yeah, that's an interesting topic. Instead of a code review, we could, like, if you have an extension that you would like me to convert to also support 2022. Yeah, so this is like you get free labor. That's a good idea. So it could be a very short episode if we figure out that there are interrupt changes. You're using tool windows, for instance. So if you want to do that, I think that's a great idea. So if you have an extension that you would like me to upgrade for you, make sure it doesn't use tool windows. Okay, that is one aspect that we know right now that it doesn't work. So other than that, yeah, great idea. Hit me up on Twitter, and we'll get that scheduled. Yeah. So this is absolutely a fantastic idea. If there's an extension that you don't know how to write, or don't want to, or you think it's too much work, or you don't have the time, or whatever, or you're just lazy, then let's write it here on live. Absolutely. Oh, start page does that? Yeah. We should try to see if we can do that. That's interesting. Okay. All right. That's it. Now this time I mean it. See you next week, everybody. Do we have a show next week? No, we don't have a show next week because it's the 4th of July. It's not the 4th of July. It's the 2nd of July, but at Microsoft, we kind of have the days off or something like that. So no show next week. So we're gonna skip a week there, and then we'll be back the Friday after that. So I hope you have a good 2 weeks of nice weather. We have heat wave here at the moment, but I don't know if I want to call it nice weather, but it's kind of nice. Oh, someone had to mention that. No, I'm not gonna do that one. It's too much work. I don't. This is not gonna be carried into 2022. This is one of the extensions that I know I'm not going to do. This one and the web compiler is another one. Those two are not going to be moved to 2022. I don't want to maintain them anymore. All right. Adios. If I can hit the button.